Are back. Motorcycles on circuit here in Spain for the first time in 18 weeks. It's a familiar story though at the top of the timesheets here after this day of testing. Maverick Vinales and Fabio Quartararo make it a Yamaha 1-2. And not only the weather is hot here in Jerez, the times are too. The top 12 covered by just 1 second. Well, a very warm welcome to you from Jerez here in Andalusia in Spain. I'm Steve Day, joined here by Matt Birt. We'll be crossing over to Simon Crafar, who's going to be interviewing the riders. 18 weeks since we joined you last in Qatar. And what a time it has been since. Of course, COVID-19 has had a serious impact on so many around the world. And before we even get going in today's show, we must, of course, just say that our hearts go out to all of those who have been impacted by this and have lost loved ones. We're hoping that with motorcycle racing action back, that we can at least bring you some more joy. Matt, it has been just the most peculiar, unprecedented times. It has impacted everybody. I don't think anybody has ever experienced anything like it, but I have to say, it is good to be back.
It's absolutely awesome to be back, mate. I mean, this morning I woke up in the hotel. It was like, I felt like an 8-year-old on Christmas morning. Absolutely fantastic. 245 days almost since we had MotoGP action in Valencia last November. Here we are in the glorious sunshine in Jerez. It's a very unique, a very different MotoGP World Championship in prospect, but it was absolutely awesome. When those bikes rolled out of pit lane at 10 o'clock this morning for the start of this special test, both of us went to the window in the press room and it was just like music to our ears, mate, wasn't it?
I must admit, I don't know whether I've got a bit soft during lockdown, but I actually felt quite emotional hearing motorcycles roar for the first time, seeing those guys back out on circuit. I've missed the noise so much, and I have to say, I've even missed you boys.
Do you know what? I was going to say the same thing. 4 months on without you on the road, mate. It's been dull at times, but yeah, it is absolutely fantastic to be back. And we hope this shortened season, of course, 20 races we expect to have this year, Steve, shortened down to 13 rounds, European-based exclusively, but those 13 races are going to hopefully deliver some absolute fireworks and some great racing for the fans at home.
Well, as Matt just rightly mentioned, this is a very new look to MotoGP. Of course, there are some serious protocols in place. You can see me and Matt here are sported up. We've got our masks on. We look like stormtroopers. But this is the way it's going to be for the rest of this season. And as you say, it's going to be mighty, mighty busy. It's a grueling prospect for the MotoGP World Championship. There's a few people during lockdown, Matt, that were saying maybe there'd be an asterisk next to the World Championship of 2020 based on the fact that there are only 13 races in the World Championship. But my, if you win this World Championship, 13 in the space of 18 weeks, you deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a survival of the mentally and physically strongest, Steve. 13 races in 18 weekends, as you just mentioned. There is no margin for error. You can't afford to make a mistake. You drop 25 points, and that's going to really hurt you in a shortened season. And, of course, when there are so many back-to-back races, you cannot afford to get injured because there is just no time to recover whatsoever. So staying fit and healthy is going to be absolutely crucial between now and middle of November when we get to Valencia.
Well, let's see if we can cross over, catch our Kiwi friend Simon Crafar now, because he's got quite a few interviews to be lined up over the space of the next hour and 15, hour and a half perhaps. Simon, it is good to see you. So good to see you at the hotel yesterday. Good to see you here in the paddock as well. But this has been the most peculiar time for all of us, not just us, but the riders in particular, to get back to this. It did not take them long, though, to get up to speed.
No, not at all. Marc was impressive, like 4 laps in, and he went boing when other guys had done, I think, 10 at the time. I think, looking at the times, you said, just like Qatar, Yamaha are looking really strong, or, at least 3-4 of them real strong. Suzuki as well, strong, really good this afternoon as well. I think the real change is Marc's confidence back? I think, I spoke to him earlier, he's sounding dangerous, you know, because the shoulder's recovered, they've found a direction with the bike again. Scary stuff from Marc. And also Jack continuing his form. He was really fast, you know, just like in Qatar, really fast this morning. Had a few hiccups this afternoon in the heat. The team said traction control settings, but, you know, I think it's the usual suspects, you know.
Yeah, Simon, Matt here. Great to see you back in pit lane earlier on today, buddy. Yamaha top 2 and also 2 Suzukis inside the top 5 as well. Mir and Rins looking particularly strong. Yamaha and Suzuki looked like they were really on for the start of the season back in March, and it doesn't look like much has changed. It looks like at the moment that Yamaha and Suzuki are going to be the favourites with Marc right in there.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just getting told to put my mask back on, guys. Anyway, I totally agree. Like Suzuki, I think Suzuki and Yamaha did the best job off-season, you know, testing, because they came back so strong, ready for the season. I think they lost a bit of an advantage they could have had by, especially over Marc at the first race. But, in general, I don't think, I mean, they could have an advantage over Marc because Honda were a little bit lost, you know, at that last test, only found in the last hour what the problem was. And Suzuki and Yamaha were ready to race, and I think Jack was as well. So, yeah, it's a shame that Suzuki and Yamaha lost that little advantage. I think it's going to be a more even playing field here.
As we know, Simon, some of the specifications have been frozen for this 2020 season, and Ducati were in a spot of bother with this new Michelin tyre just before lockdown when we concluded the winter testing. But it looks like they have made some chassis tweaks here this afternoon. Do you know any more about that?
Yeah, so I went to talk to Davide Tardozzi this morning, and he said the plan was let the guys ride this morning and get up to speed, and this afternoon they will have a go at the settings they've kind of, with the engineers, worked out to try and get the most out of that new high grip Michelin rear, which is what they were struggling to do in Qatar and in Malaysia. So I'm waiting to hear an interview Dovi, and that's going to be one of my questions. Did they try those settings? Did they work? And, you know, I've got to say, Dovi had a pretty impressive day considering he's, you know, just had a surgery. And but he took it really easy in the first session. Second session, he was out there regularly pushing up the top. It was only right at the end he dropped down sort of mid-pack, so impressive day. And you know what, guys, when you have an injury like that, and he's rocked up to this track knowing that bone's still growing together, you don't put 100% in on a test day. So, yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Simon, you just talked about Michelin there, and thankfully Michelin trucks are providing myself and Steve with some much needed shade right now. You've been in pit lane all day where it's been absolutely roasting hot. We're here in Andalusia in July, of course. We normally come here in early May. I mean, temperatures have been close to 40 degrees ambient temperature. In terms of Michelin's challenge this weekend, because they've never experienced anything like this, I mean, these are conditions that we normally get in Sepang and in Buriram. How much is that going to be a factor? And how much will the riders that favour low grip conditions like Marc perhaps have a small advantage this weekend? Because tyres are going to be crucial in these kind of excruciatingly hot temperatures, aren't they?
Yes, for starters, this temperature's brutal on everything. And, you know, to ride in it, I saw the riders' faces when they came back into boxes today. In all classes, people were really struggling. You could see the super fit guys because they were struggling less, but it literally brutal conditions, you know, they're cooking. And I've got to say about tyres, Michelin, they can choose the rubber window, like I was saying earlier on Facebook Live, they can choose the rubber window that works, but there's no getting away from it. When it's 55 degree track temperature, there's not enough grip, and like you said, it's going to favour guys that can adapt you know, to the conditions, you know, and Marc is a star at that. I've got to say one other thing though, is Maverick said his bike was working very good in those low grip temperatures, low grip conditions, so yeah, he could be dangerous too.
Simon, thanks as ever for your comments. We're going to catch up with you again a little bit later on, and of course throughout this Grand Prix race weekend that's coming up, but for the time being, go and enjoy some interviews and we'll speak to you soon.
Talk soon.
Thanks very much to Simon Crafar. Matt, it's going to be a fine balancing act, I think, when you look at the World Championship coming up, and it is short and sharp. there's sort of various ways you can go about this, but we know one thing about Marc Marquez: no matter what the conditions are, he is the boss. He is going to be the man with the target on his back, but he is not going to be holding back in the first race. I mean, people are going to have to get going pretty sharp. But at the same time, if you get injured over the space of the next few weeks, you're in real trouble.
Yeah, we mentioned that. I mean, I think Marc almost wants to come out today and make a bit of a statement because, let's be brutally honest, Steve, he was a little bit fortunate with the lockdown and with the COVID chaos because coming into the season, he was nowhere near fully fit. He had that problem with the shoulder that, of course, he suffered for the first time here in November at the final corner. The recovery was a lot longer than what he had anticipated. So going into Qatar, had we had that first race as originally scheduled, Marc was on the back foot. But now he's had that 4 month off to get that shoulder fully healed. Marc is looking super, super strong. He's got an amazing record here as well, Steve. When you look at the stats, he's never been off the podium here in his MotoGP career in Jerez. 175 points he's fought for, and he's taken 151. So this is a great starting point for Marc. But interesting what Simon just said there about Maverick. You know, normally, Steve, over the last 2 or 3 years, it's in these hot, slippery, greasy conditions where the Yamaha struggled. But Maverick and Fabio Quartararo right up there. So they might have something with that man we're looking at right now, a fully fit, reigning world champion.
I think the big question mark with Maverick Vinales, Matt, and it's always been the same, is can he deliver when it comes to actually race day? Now, at the end of last year, we saw quite clearly a major, major step from Yamaha. Quartararo was outstanding all year long, but Maverick Vinales, certainly towards the end of 2019, was really showing potentially what he's got. He's now, of course, just been guaranteed that extra security, if you like. He's going to be remaining a factory Yamaha rider for another 2 years after this one, but it is time to stand and deliver, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Yamaha have put a lot of faith in Maverick. Of course, there was a lot of talk and gossip, wasn't there, in the winter about a potential move to Ducati. So Maverick has laid down a marker as well here today. And what better time to speak to the fastest man out of the gate? After 4 months without any action, Maverick Vinales is quickest here today in Jerez, and we can hear from him talking to Simon.
At Qatar and here, the last days of testing, you've been incredibly fast, like really impressive. How confident are you that you can take that into the race weekend?
Yeah, for sure. I'm very confident because I feel that the bike is working really good and we have a special feeling with the team. And you know, the heat was very high today and the bike was working well, which normally we struggle a little bit more. The grip was fantastic on the bike and actually I had no issues. And quite happy and confident about the weekend.
Maverick, you spoke about the bike. How much better is the new bike from last year's?
I have to say that here the last year bike was working very good because we had a lot of turning. But this year I can attack the corners on a different way, especially braking very hard, which will give me a little bit of an advantage if I need to overtake. But anyway, still we have time to work to see if we can make the bike turn a little bit more and to make to hit better lap times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much to Simon Crafar. Thanks to Maverick Vinales. One of the key things about Maverick and the change over the last couple of months with him, it's certainly at the end of last year, was his approach mentally. He decided to change quite a lot last year, Matt. And just recently, of course, before we went into lockdown, it was announced that he's going to be the kingpin at Yamaha. Valentino Rossi, of course, no longer a factory rider at the end of this year. How much do you think that's going to change his approach? I mean, that must make him feel pretty special and even more confident.
Absolutely. I mean, Yamaha have put all their eggs into Maverick's basket. They believe that he's the man to take them forward. Of course, it's not going to get any easier next year because Fabio Quartararo is going to step into the factory team. But, you know, Yamaha were aware that there was big money offers coming in for Maverick from Ducati, and they moved because they felt like he could be a potential future world champion for them. Really interesting to see Maverick talking there because he looked very quietly confident, assured in himself, and what bodes really well, like we just mentioned, the fact that in these really, really scorching hot conditions, I mean, people were saying today track temperature was almost up to 60 degrees. Well, that is around the realms of sort of Buriram, Sepang temperatures. Worth noting though, isn't it, Steve? You know, Maverick was absolutely awesome in Malaysia last year in those sort of hot conditions. So it's looking really, really good. You know, I felt personally coming into the original season, and I think you did as well, mate, that Maverick was the strongest. If we had have raced in Qatar, I had Maverick nailed down for the race win. And what I like about Maverick as well is he's already shown today, he said this was a strong point of his, he doesn't need any time to recover the feeling or the confidence. When he gets back on the bike, bang, he can just hit the lap times, and he's been out there and proved it today.
But he certainly has, and who was behind him? None other than Fabio Quartararo. It's sort of a similar theme to what we saw a lot of at the end of last year. Equally as impressive. This is a different season, though, Matt, for Fabio Quartararo coming up. Last year, he was a rookie. He was absolutely outstanding. So many pole positions, always there, those epic, memorable battles with Marc Marquez. But this year is different. He's not going to be able to come out of a race and say, well, I'm still a rookie, I'm happy with that. There are greater expectations on the young Frenchman's shoulders.
100%. I mean, Fabio Quartararo is expected, in albeit a shortened season, to be fighting for the World Championship. Of course, it was right here in Jerez just over a year ago where he really announced himself on the big stage, becoming the youngest rider in history ever to take a Premier Class pole position. Of course, there was heartache in the race when that gear shifter left him in tears, but Fabio gained so much confidence last year, so he's going to be super, super strong. And why not? Let's hear from the Frenchman after such an incredible rookie season in 2019. Well, he started pretty well in 2020, and we can find out what he said to Simon after the first day here in Jerez.
Fabio continuing that incredible form through from last year in this huge heat at Jerez on the new bike. Firstly, how hard is it back on the bike, and how good is the new machine?
Yeah, honestly, feels so good to be back because, you know, after such a long time, it's always a pleasure to ride a MotoGP bike, and was not easy because the 2020 bike we don't really ride a lot. With it, we ride with fresh engine today, and was different because the power delivery was a little bit strange because I'm used to 2019 bike, but finally we find a good setting on the bike, and we reach quite a good pace at the end. And honestly, I feel happy because we make a small step from last year for the pace.
Regarding you losing the first 20 minutes of FP1, if that is enforced, do you think it will make any difference to your awesome form?
Well, first of all, the first thing is that we did a meeting this morning, and I told to the team that I don't want to know nothing, so I was fully focused on what I need, and that's it. I even don't know it, so that's it. Just focus for the riding and for the pace for Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
Thank you, Fabio. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again there to Simon, thanks to Fabio. Stevie talk from the 21-year-old. Just in case you're wondering what Simon's referring to when it comes to 20 minutes that he'll lose in FP1. Matt, unfortunately, he's been a naughty boy at the start of the 2020 season. He was being caught on his push bike where and when he shouldn't be.
Yeah, basically he went to a test in Paul Ricard. I mean, of course, as soon as the lockdowns were eased around Europe and across the world, the riders straight away were back on two wheels as quickly as they possibly could. Now, unfortunately for Fabio, he rode, well, I guess the word isn't a legal R1. He was invited to attend a track day in Paul Ricard, and who would not want to go and race at a great circuit like Paul Ricard? Fabio wanted to go and blow off some cobwebs. Unfortunately, that R1 he was riding did not meet the kind of standard requirements. The riders cannot go out and practice and train on bikes that are similar to World Superbikes or MotoGP bikes. So clearly, it's an innocent mistake. He had no intention of breaking the rules, and he has appealed. So watch this space. He has got that 20-minute penalty at the start of FP1, but he has appealed, and he obviously feels like, by appealing, he's got a pretty strong case to put before the FIA and MotoGP stewards. But we have to clarify, Fabio, there was absolutely no intent. He's just been caught out by the rules, which are, you've got to say, they're there for everybody, so they've got to be stuck to.
Yeah, they have, and you would imagine that by docking actual minutes from a free practice session in a Grand Prix weekend, it's probably a better policy than trying to find someone.
It is, because, you know, you could argue that the teams with the bigger budgets, well, a fine doesn't really hurt them, whereas 20 minutes of track time, it's going to be fairly costly, although having this extra track time today is giving him at least a chance to blow up the cobwebs, get rid of a bit of the ring rust and regain his confidence. But clearly he feels like he hasn't done anything wrong, and he's going to put forward a strong case. So we'll have to see what happens. If you see Fabio Quartararo sat in the box on Friday morning twiddling his thumbs, well, you know that the appeal wasn't successful.
Well, let's move on now to the rider who, of course, finished third in today's test, the world champion, Marc Marquez, who was astonishing last year in claiming his 8th world crown, 18 podiums from the 19 races that he entered, 12 wins. It's now 16 victories in the last 25 races. There are people at home, Matt, when this new calendar was announced, saying, this favours Marc Marquez. Well, no matter what calendar you put in front of us, it favours Marc Marquez because he is a genius. It did not take him long at all to get up to speed here, but there's been a lot happening at Repsol Honda in the last few weeks. We're going to have to try and dig through that, but not least, of course, the news that he's going to be joined next year by Pol Espargaro.
Yeah, some major news breaking earlier on this week with Pol Espargaro joining Marc Marquez next year. We can actually hear from the reigning world champion after his first day's work in the glorious Andalusian sunshine. Here's what Marc Marquez had to say to Simon a few moments ago.
Marc, the last time I saw you, we were in Qatar, and there was some confusion at Honda about the aero, the chassis and that, and you seemed to find the way at the last moment. How confident are you that you have the right bike for the race weekend?
I mean, I'm happy today. Happy, and I can breathe, because the pre-season was really hard about physical condition, but also about technical side. And yeah, looks like in the last hour in Qatar test, we find something, but you never know if it's because it's Qatar or if it's real. The problem was real in that part of the bike. But yeah, I started here today, and from the beginning was my bike. Was the bike that I ride in 2019 with a kind of evolution. Was my shoulder again, come back, and yeah, I was happy. And yeah, in FP1 immediately I saw that the speed was there. So I immediately understand that the speed was there, but the consistency was not there. So this afternoon I tried to work more on the other side. Just don't use a lot the tire, try to work in a good way, try to understand how to be consistent, because here on Sunday will be a long race, 28 laps, and yeah, basically happy to come back on the bike.
Marc, previous races where there's been very low grip, it seemed to play into your hands. You manage it well. How important do you think that's going to be race day Sunday in this heat?
Will be difficult. I mean, even today I already feel. I mean, it's one kind of track in the first part of the practice, and another kind of track, another kind of grip in the second part of the practice, because the Michelin rubber is there in the second part of the practice. So yeah, on the race normally we start with a very low grip, and yeah, we need to understand. We are on Wednesday, so now on Friday try to work harder. We have a few new items to try that today obviously we didn't have time to try everything, and yeah, during the weekend try to fix or to understand if these new items can give something better, and yeah, try to fight for the podium, because Yamaha riders, Suzuki riders are riding in a very good way.
Thank you, Marc.
Thank you.
Champion Marc Marquez there talking to Simon Crafar, talking about the weather. I mean, they're saying it could even be hotter here on Sunday, in excess of 60 degrees track temperature, which is absolutely absurd. That interview, Matt, is going to strike fear into the rest of the field.
Yeah, the word I would use there, mate, is ominous, because he said absolutely delighted with the recovery of the shoulder. That's in tip-top condition again. And crucially, of course, as he mentioned, before the last hour in Qatar, it was a nightmare for Honda. They were really struggling, couldn't get the bike to turn in those fast corners. But Marquez, in those 4 months off, Honda have worked their miracles, as always, with the bike. And he looks like he's really strong. He's got the feeling back with the 2019 bike as well. So, yeah, it looks pretty ominous for the opposition at the moment.
Just before we came to that interview about Marc, I was just briefly talking about the changes that are going to go on in Repsol Honda. I mean, there was so much talk for weeks and weeks and weeks about this. Pol Espargaro's name popped up, and hey presto, it's happened. Pol Espargaro will be teaming up with Marc Marquez, and we'll talk more about Pol's side of that story a little bit later, because I'm sure we'll get to Pol and how he's got on today on the KTM. But what about Alex Marquez, Marc's younger brother, of course, who we're now going to switch to? This must be such an unusual couple of months for Alex Marquez. First of all, he's announced as the Repsol Honda teammate to his big brother, the world champion. And okay, it's not all bad. He's going to LCR Honda. He's going to be on factory machinery, but we've not even raced at all in 2020, and he's already out of the seat that he was given at the end of last year. It's
a really remarkable, unique situation. There can't be anybody that's been hired to a full factory ride like Alex was last November, albeit in quite dramatic circumstances after the Lorenzo retirement, to find himself out of that ride without actually racing for one single lap in that team. Now, obviously, HRC have got their reasons. they need a better, or they need a wingman for Marc. You know, Marc's the geese that lays the golden egg, but you need somebody that's going to support him and be there week in, week out. And right now, HRC clearly don't feel that's Alex's job right now, so we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll try and pick the bones out of that in a moment. But let's now hear from Alex Marquez and find out how he's got on post-lockdown day one here in Jerez.
Alex, you've had your last day testing before you go racing on the Honda. It was brutal conditions, both wind and heat. How was it, and do you feel ready?
Well, feel ready, I don't know, honestly, because in the end it's 2 sessions of 1 hour and a half. After 4 months without the MotoGP bike for a rookie always is difficult. I knew before to come here that will be a tricky day and difficult. But in the end, I feel better than what I expect, so this is already positive. I feel good, especially with used tire. I know with the new one I need to improve quite a lot, but with use I was able to keep not a really good pace, but good lap times. So, you know, good to have already this base Wednesday to be more clear for the Friday and have already the rhythm to, especially for a rookie like me, to keep going and keep improving lap by lap.
It sounds like you feel confident enough with your times for the race. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge in Sunday's race?
Well, biggest challenge is, I think, for Sunday's race will be to keep the rhythm with these hot conditions that are really tricky and really difficult, you know, for everything, really demanding, and especially the track is not like Sepang or Qatar that you can rest a little bit in some straight. Here you are always working on the bike, so will be really demanding for the riders, but will be tough. We're training hard during this month, and I feel ready for my first MotoGP race.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thanks to Alex Marquez there, the reigning Moto2 world champion. It's not all doom and gloom, Matt. I mean, this was always going to be difficult for any rookie starting the MotoGP World Championship on a Honda, but let alone having gone through the lockdown. In a way, you can understand this decision when you really look at it, the way what Honda have decided to do, because it sort of takes Alex out of the limelight a bit and allows him just to kind of focus on his work rather than constantly being in the shadow of his older brother Marc. But you do also have to just wonder what Marc might think of the situation.
Well, I think Marc would have been fully informed about the whole thing. Let's be honest, he wasn't expecting Alex to be his teammate this year anyway, had it not been such a disaster last year for Jorge Lorenzo. I mean, there's people saying that this will convince Marc that he needs to leave in the future, having just signed a 4-year contract. I think it's a canny move by HRC because, like you say, and really they're taking Alex out of the firing line because he's going to be constantly compared to what Marc is doing in the same garage on the same bike. Put him in LCR, there's a little bit less pressure, a little bit less stress. It's a great environment, of course, one of the top independent teams. We've seen Cal Crutchlow win races and fight for the podiums on a regular basis there. So, you know, and obviously Cal's another story in this whole tangle where, because at the moment Cal chasing a ride next year. So yeah, I think it's going to do Alex the power of good because it's going to be a less stressful and high pressure environment for him in LCR.
Well, sticking with Honda, sticking with LCR, Taka Nakagami's finished for the day. Let's now catch up with the Japanese rider and see what he made of day one.
Naka-san, with almost 4 months off the bike, going straight into that heat with MotoGP bike, how difficult was it? And for your shoulder?
Well, first of all, I'm pretty happy to jump on the bike again. Of course, since the last time was a Qatar test 4 months ago, so it was really tough. You know, from the straight to like a MotoGP speed, the racing speed. It's not easy to adapt. But this morning, I think I took a lot of time to feel okay. This is the MotoGP, but at the end, start to understand, and but still a little struggle to find the speed, and still I'm not find well in the setup on the bike, and but of course the situation of my shoulder is 100% fit well, and yeah, the last 4 months I try to recovery and of course more training on the right shoulder, and now it's okay, nothing problem. I don't feel any pain, so this is most important thing for this season, because you know, from now until the end, never stop, so no rest, and try to be fit, always fit well physically. So But now I want to say that I'm fit well. So this is mostly important things.
With that temperature this afternoon and the wind, what was the most difficult thing for you to manage?
For me, the wind doesn't help a lot. I struggled for the turning, and the bike is more heavier, and the grip is not too bad. When I see the ground more than 60 degrees, it's not easy to understand, but was well. The grip is not too bad, and but this is the first day. Just the half, 1.5 and 1.5 today, and so maybe it's gonna be different story for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and more rubber on the track, so it will be different. But anyway, the first impression is not too bad, especially on this afternoon session, and because I'm really worried about the more than 60 degrees, but at the end it's not too bad. So of course now one day off tomorrow, but Friday start to work again, so try to keep a positive way for the weekend, and we will be fit well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Simon talking to Takaki Nakagami there. It's good to see the smile back on his face, Matt, because last year it was looking all so great. That fantastic result that he had over in Mugello in Italy looked like it was just the start of something fantastic. And then, of course, Assen, when he got wiped out by Valentino, that had a severe impact on the rest of his season.
Valentino did a proper number on Taka, didn't he, in Assen, because initially he had that real problem with the ankle, only able to get on the bike in Germany on crutches, and then latterly in the season it materialised that he'd also got serious shoulder problems, pretty similar to what Marc Marquez struggled with throughout the winter. So yeah, good to see Taka back fighting fit. Of course, still no official confirmation really about what Taka's up to next year, although it looks like in this big Honda shake-up with Paul Espargaro in at Repsol Honda, Alex Marquez moving down to LCR. No room at the inn for Cal Crutchlow at LCR, so it looks like Taka Nakagami will be staying put because, of course, he's Japanese, which helps with HRC, and of course the team is backed, or that side of the team is backed by Japanese money as well with Idemitsu, so all the cards looking stacked in favour of Taka to stay where he is.
Well, of course, we just mentioned Cal Crutchlow. We'll come to him at some stage, but one of the teams he is being linked to, in fact, is Aprilia, and we're now going to switch over to the Italian manufacturer. Aleix Espargaro, I mean, how can you not love the guy? He is 100% commitment at all times, and today, once again, showing that this new Aprilia is the real deal. It is mighty fast, and Aleix Espargaro, who loves Jerez, Matt, was fast too, right out of the blocks. The only question mark, and I think me, you, Simon, we're all keeping our fingers crossed that it's not the case, but the reliability of the Aprilia is the only thing hanging in the air at the moment, because otherwise they look like they've made a giant step forward.
Yeah, if that Aprilia RSGP holds together, Steve, they've got a serious weapon on their hands rolled out of Nawale. Yeah, a little bit of a technical issue actually today for Aleix Espargaro. Dropped a bit of oil on circuit. A couple of crashes actually today as well. Danilo Petrucci, Ducati, we'll hear from him later on. He had quite a tough day, only did 4 laps in the afternoon session after a crash at turn 11 through one of the fast right-handers here in Jerez. And back to Alex Marquez, he crashed at turn 6. Alex was perfectly okay, but from Alex to Aleix, let's hear about a really positive first day on track for Aleix Espargaro in Jerez. Here he is with Simon.
Aleix, you've been impressive here. I remember all the way back to the Ford Yamaha days, really fast at Jerez. Sounds like you love the bike, it's working. How confident are you that if that engine hangs together, that you can get some impressive points in the race?
Yeah, I have many doubts because obviously Malaysia and Qatar were very good, but Jerez is always completely different. It's another story, completely different tracks than Europe. So I'm glad that these first 2 sessions we show that we've been competitive as well. Everybody is very, very close, but I think that the pace, especially we show in the afternoon with at the race time, has been quite strong enough to fight for top 6, top 8. So I'm happy. Unfortunately, we have a couple of problems with the engine. With the same bike, we had 2 problems morning and afternoon. So we have to work. We have to understand what happened, and I hope that they can fix. We have tomorrow to work on it, and I hope that for Friday will be solved.
What's the most difficult thing to manage in this heat at Jerez?
I mean, everything. For me, physically, obviously, it's very demanding. I will say maybe more than Malaysia, but I did my homework and I feel strong. But the problem is that the heat that the bike gives to you, to especially to my hands, is unbelievable. So I did no more than 7 laps, I think, in a row. But the hand was at 1 million degrees. So also for tomorrow we have to try to cover more that part of the bike to see if we can cool a little bit my hands, because if not, the race will be very difficult.
Thank you, Anaylse.
Thank you.
Very much to Anaylse Espargaro. Sounds pretty confident there ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix. And I mean, if they can, I really hope, because he's had some bad luck over the last few years, if they can sort out reliability, it will be so good to see the smile back on Alayse's face and potentially getting himself through to the top 6. A Moto E machine there, just with the horn going off as it's just going past us.
Sounds like a roadrunner.
But in any case, I mean, this is looking like a positive step for Aprilia. Bradley Smith also at times today showing his cards as well. So they've clearly made big steps. And if Cal Crutchlow is heading over towards the Italian manufacturer, I mean, it would be even positive for anybody that maybe wants to try and take the seat next to him.
You know, Anaylse pre-season, or the first pre-season, was talking big, wasn't he, Steve? He was saying that the bike, the new RSGP, which I'm told really is a radical departure from what Aprilia have done previously. Bradley Smith, I think, said that there are less than 10 pieces on this 2020 Aprilia that are the same as the 2019 bike. So they've been working really hard, burning the midnight oil over in Nuali. But for me, the key that Anaylse Espargaro has got faith in this project that it's going to move forward and let him fight for the podium was he signed a new 2-year contract very recently, Steve. Now, last year, things were so bad at times, Anaylse would not have signed on for another session. You know, it was that bad. But here he is, he's seen progress, solid progress, and he thinks that they can fight for the podium. Great to see Anaylse stay on that bike for another couple of years, because he's worked so hard to put it where it is now. Just hope, fingers crossed, that they've got that reliability sorted out, because if they have, then they could be a real surprise package in this 13-race championship we've got.
Yeah, dark horses are Aprilia. Let's now go over to Ducati, and we'll start off with the Aussie Jack Miller. Some important news for him during the lockdown, of course, the news that he will become a factory rider in 2021. And Matt, given that at times last year his future was also uncertain, this is a massive boost for Jack.
The world works in mysterious ways, doesn't it? I mean, you know, it was in the Red Bull Ring just over a year ago where those rumours came out that Jack was going to be dumped out of Pramac Ducati and they were going to bring in Jorge Lorenzo to rescue Jorge from his Repsol Honda nightmare. It's so funny how the world works. Great news, of course, for Australia and for Jack Miller. Aussies have a pretty decent track record of success when they're on board Ducatis, don't they?
I can't think of who you're thinking. No, it's an amazing thing for Jack. I think it's a real shot in the arm for him heading into the 2020 season as well. Overheard him talking a little bit earlier about how the day went. It sounds like they ran into a few heat issues in the afternoon when they were trying out that Michelin tyre. I mean, one of the key things that we pointed out last year about Jack was his maturity and the way he actually dealt with the races. The race management side of things in the latter half of 2019 was really impressive, and that can only stand him in good stead. Yeah,
he's matured into a top-notch rider. That's why Ducati have picked him to be their factory man next season. Well, let's hear from the Wizard of Oz himself. Let's cross now and hear from Simon Crafar with Jack Miller himself.
Jack, you were fast straight out of the gate this morning and again this afternoon, but your team said you had a few hassles setting-wise to work with the heat. How was it?
Yeah, a couple of, just little teething issues. We didn't get to throw a new tyre at it this morning, which was, it doesn't really matter too much, but would have been nice. But, struggled a little bit this afternoon with the wind. I think that's going to be one of the things we're going to have to keep an eye on. Especially in the Arvo, blew up yesterday. Arvo is blowing up again today, quite bad, especially in the fast corners. Just trying to get contact with the front is a little bit hard, getting the bike to turn. So that's going to be something we'll have to look at, and if it does look like it's going to do it for the rest of the week, then we may have to change something. But in general, good to be back on the bike. I felt, a little rusty at the start there, but, soon worked that off, and the main focus now is just getting everything set up for 25 laps on Sunday.
Jack, Jerez not famous for being a Ducati track. Do you think you can change that?
I think so. This was first time riding the 2021 bike around the 2020 bike around the around the Jerez track, and I feel a big improvement from the last year's bike already in terms of just how it handles or behaves in high-speed corners and just a few little things here and there. So I think we've got a good package that'll be able to fight with the other manufacturers over the weekend. But I think, the biggest thing is just set ourselves up for a race of attrition on Sunday. I think, everyone's going to have to, especially with the way the season looks like it's going to play out with quite a short season, we're going to have to, points are going to be important, so just try and take the maximum we can, not do anything too silly in these first couple of races, and bring it home.
Thank you, Jack.
Cheers, Simon. Thank you.
Great to hear Simon there talking to Jack Miller. Two questions here for you regarding with Jack and Ducati, Matt. Number one is, of course, once Jack becomes a fully fledged factory Ducati rider, the expectations will be different. There will be a lot more pressure on his shoulders. But question one is, what really can you expect from Jack this year, given he made such an impressive show of himself at the end of last year? Where can we expect to see him this year on a regular basis? And the second question is, who is his teammate going to be?
Two not very easy questions to answer.
Sorry.
I think Jack he got the factory ride with Ducati for 2021 based purely on how great he was in the second half of the last season championship. He was absolutely phenomenal. We'll just take a little break from Ducati and jump back to Aprilia. We heard what a great day it was for anaylse Spargo. Well, we can cross live, or very shortly, we'll hope to cross live and speak to his temporary teammate, Bradley Smith, of course. Bradley confirmed at least to be joining anaylse Spargo for this double header in the Jerez. There he is, he's popped up on screens right now. So Simon Crafar live with Britain's Bradley Smith. Over to you guys.
Bradley, what's it like to be a MotoGP racer again?
Yeah, it's nice to be back, honestly. It's a whole new appreciation, I think. One, because of the obviously the COVID and everything and sitting at home for so many months, but then also all those memories of last year watching from my sofa, wishing that I was out there and wishing I was here. So it's nice to be part of the factory effort, and the moment is just going to be for these two races, and then let's see what happens moving forward, but taking the opportunity here in Jerez and enjoying myself so far.
Brad, how difficult is it in this heat everyone's talking about, but also what are you working on to improve on the Aprilia for this weekend?
Yeah, obviously those hotter conditions showed up a few weaknesses, and I was struggling a little bit there with a bit of understeer. Kind of maybe setting up the bike not necessarily in the best way, so that was the main aim for this afternoon. Also tried to get a little bit of long run in, just for the guys to kind of check all the temperatures and all the parameters, because these are temperatures that we've never really raced in before. We test in them occasionally with Sepang, etc., but we've certainly never put the RSGP 2020 through anything like this. So learning as much as possible, gathering as much data as we can this afternoon, and then any kind of protocols that we need to put in place ready for the weekend, we will do. But so far we're within our parameters, so the guys are happy.
Thank you, Brad.
Cheers.
Thanks very much to Brad Smith there. Good to see him here. He won't need any help getting himself around this Jerez circuit, of course. He was a demon round here back on the 125, about a decade ago. Just quickly before, we're going to have lots of live interviews coming here, and we don't actually know who they're going to be and when, so this is going to go all over the place. But let's get the Jack Miller thing cleared up first, Matt.
Yeah, I think Jack's going to be looking to be inside that top five in the championship, maybe try and get a dry race victory on the Duke, certainly establish himself more as a podium contender this year. And about his teammate next season, well, that's a real conundrum. We know Danilo Petrucci's out. That's why Jack Miller is in. Petrucci, of course, off to KTM to effectively replace Pol Espargaro, although he's not going into the factory team. Hopefully he's still with us. And where does this, of course, leave the man who's been Marc Marquez's closest challenger over the last 3 years, Andrea Dovizioso? Well, that is still a big question mark for the 2021 grid, because at the moment, as we sit here right now, basking in the glorious Andalusian sunshine, Desmo Dovi has not got a contract signed, and it seems like everybody's playing a little bit of hardball. Ducati, we understand, have offered him a significant reduction in money, and Andrea's basically said, OK, well, I'll call your bluff, and even threatened, believe it or not, to take a sabbatical, take a year off, which seems really, really strange. But that one's still to play out. Personally speaking, I can't see Dovi going anywhere. I think he'll be Jack Miller's teammate next season.
Well, it certainly would make sense, wouldn't it, for all parties concerned. But then I suppose Dovi can play hardball, because who else is actually on the market? That's the big question. Anyway, as Matt just mentioned, one of the riders leaving Ducati is, of course, Danilo Petrucci. He's going over to join Hervé Poncharal, but for now, he's staying with Ducati. He's got 13 races coming up. Let's see the smiley Italian now and see what he's got to say. We're going to cross over live to him any second. Here he is, big old Danilo, ready to chat to Simon.
Danilo, only 4 laps into that second session, you ended up in the gravel. I understand it wasn't your fault, and you've injured your neck. Are you going to be okay for race weekend?
Yeah, I hope so. Unfortunately, I crashed really hard, turn 11, more than 150 kilometers per hour, and when I was a low side. I saw Aleix Espargaro's bike with some smoke, but I saw him continue to ride, so I think, okay, it's not bad. I was on a very good lap, but then I arrived at turn 11. I lost the front. When I start to crash, I start to thumb, and when maybe 2 or 3 times I hit the head and the neck. And when I was trying to stand up, I saw all sparks and lights in my eyes, and the same. It's not really nice. So with the doctor, we decided to quit the session. And I hope the neck this night I hope not gonna hurt. But unfortunately, it was the most important session. This morning we decided to do all the session with one tire, so we were even happy about the pace. But this afternoon, this big crash. I hope for tomorrow to be fit and not hurting too much.
I spoke to your team manager, Davide, and he told me that both of his riders, you and Andrea, were planning to work on getting the most from that new rear tyre, new settings, and it sounds like you missed out on that. Did the team find something you think you're going to be okay for race weekend?
Yeah, we had some plan. The plan was to do just a pair of moves on the bike, because this morning we had quite clear ideas about the feeling with the bike. So we are positive about the weekend. Our pace is not bad, even if we look at the lap times are not good, but we didn't change any tires. So this afternoon we supposed to put a soft tire at the end, but the important is to keep the pace, because the track is completely different between the morning and the afternoon. In the afternoon it's really hot, difficult to stop the bike, difficult to find the traction. So yeah, the race will be a surprise for everyone, especially with this weather. The first 2 or 3 laps behind some other riders was like having an eye dryer on the face. It's unbelievable.
Thank you, Danilo. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a real shame for Danilo, a man who really wanted some confidence, I would imagine. He was certainly lacking in it in the latter stages of 2019, Matt. Dovizioso has arrived here recovering from a collarbone injury. It sounds like Danilo's got a pain in the neck now as well, just when perhaps the pressure was relieved from him, because he's got his future secure as well. But it's sounding like it's going to be a bit of a drag this weekend for the Ducati team.
It really does, yeah. I mean, that's the last thing that Danilo Petrucci wanted to happen, coming back refreshed after a 4-month layoff, really eager to try and show Ducati that they made a mistake letting him go. And that's a huge crash, 150 kilometres an hour, turn 11 through one of those fast right-handers at the end of the lap here in Jerez. That is a nasty, nasty crash. Good to see Danilo not more seriously injured, but yeah, a pain in the neck to start off with. I'm trying to carry on this with a Sam Lowes in the background there, pulling faces, and you might have just heard a little woohoo from Sam there. Good day for him in the Moto2 session. But yeah, with Dovi injured and with Petrucci injured as well, Steve, and the Ducati a real handful around this circuit as well. It's not going to be an easy weekend for the factory boys from Bologna.
No, it's not. Let's now move over to another manufacturer, and we'll go back to Suzuki now. Suzuki, who were in tremendous form during the winter test. They really have taken massive steps forward in the last couple of years, and I would imagine they've probably been sitting back during the winter and certainly during the lockdown with their feet up a bit, because of course they've retained Alex Rins and Joan Mir. There's no twisting going on over at Suzuki, and everything looks like it's going pretty well. This new Michelin seems to suit the Suzuki as well. Both Alex Rins and Joan Mir are looking really, really good.
Well, when they both left Qatar, Steve, they told Simon Crafar and the world's media they were ready to go. If the race had gone ahead in Qatar, both of them, certainly Alex Rins was very, very confident that they were going to be fighting for the podium. Critically here, I think Suzuki are going to be real potent contenders, because that GSX-RR, we know, Steve, from history, it's very sweet, very gentle on tyres. So when the grip's low and when the tyres are going to get pretty slick and greasy, that's when the Suzuki, certainly in those crucial last 5 or 6 laps, does tend to come into its own. So I expect actually to see Alex Rins and Joan Mir fighting really strong for the podium, the pair of them. Rins probably going to be stronger in terms of the race challenge for the victory, but I expect Mir, with a year experience under his belt, to really have come on strong, and I think he's going to be there fighting at a lot of circuits this year.
Yeah, well, let's not forget, he himself was still recovering from injury last year after what happened in Brno. But in any case, Joan Mir, a couple of times today, saw him from up in the media centre. He looked really, really good. Let's now catch up then with last year's Spanish rookie, the Suzuki rider, and find out what Joan Mir's got to say.
Okay. Joan, very difficult conditions today, huge heat, winds, but you were fast. Do you feel like you're really figuring this class out?
Yes, the truth is that I enjoyed today. I enjoyed. It's really nice to jump on the bike again. Everything happened so fast with this bike. Nothing that we can train seems to that. But anyway, I'm happy straight away. I was fast today. I felt better in the morning with more fresh temperature. Then in the afternoon I struggled a little bit with a medium tire. I was not on the right lap times. I was struggling a little bit with the bike. But then we came back again and I was fast again. So really happy, really positive day. We know what we need to be fast, and this is the most important thing for Friday, to start pushing from the first lap.
Can you tell us what you need to be fast for this race weekend, and what do you think you can achieve?
Well, I think that we have still a bit of margin on the brakes, to be a little bit, to brake a bit harder. Now today I was on the bottom all time, and when we realized that was a bit late, but it's a thing that we have to work on. So let's continue improving like that, and also the soft tire is I feel really good also for to make a race distance.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you.
There you go then, Joan Mir looking for a little bit of improvement under braking. Well, he certainly had an issue with that here this time last year. Do you remember, Matt, when he looked down at his lap time screen going across the line, a bit of a schoolboy rookie error, and he went sailing through to turn one and missed his braking point completely. I mean, that could have been catastrophic. In any case, a very confident sounding Joan Mir. A lot of people, when Joan first came into the MotoGP World Championship, said, guys, bide your time, wait, because this guy is seriously fast. He will challenge for race victories. And I think most of us, I'll put my hand up myself and say, in the beginning, I wasn't quite so sure, but now he really is going along like a steam train.
Last year, Steve, Mir had really clicked into gear around that time of Brno when he had that horrendous crash in the post-race test on Monday. And that just really, really blunted all that progress. I think if he hadn't got injured, he may well have had a couple of podiums in the second half of the season, because it came at the worst possible time. He was really getting to grips with what he needed to get the best out of the Suzuki. What I'm going to be interested to see with Mir this year is, I mean, we know he's really, really ragged. I mean, we used to love watching him wrestle that Moto3 bike around, didn't we, back in the day, Steve? But some people said he was perhaps a bit too rough, a bit too aggressive with the Suzuki. Alex Rins has got that real silky smooth, almost like ballerina style. You know, it's really, really pleasing on the eye. And Joan Mir, I think, has worked in the winter and certainly in this break on trying to mimic as much as he can Alex Rins. And that's going to be hard. You know, his habit is to really wring the neck. but he would have looked at data, he would have looked at Alex Rins and thought, well, if Alex can make it work, well, maybe I can as well.
Well, we've got another live interview coming up. We were wondering how it got on for Andrea Dovizioso, the 3-time runner-up in the last 3 seasons. Let's cross over live now and catch the words of the Italian.
Andrea, it looked like you took it easy in the first session. I imagine how you felt with the fresh break of your collarbone. But second session was really impressive.
Yes. I mean, about my physical condition, I'm pretty good. Yes, I'm not. I have to thinking about and we prepare in a good way. But the work we did in the last 2 weeks with my people was amazing. So I don't have any problems about the collarbone. I just have a problem about what I feel with the leather, but it's not too bad. Pretty happy about that and happy to make a test before the race weekend because after 4 months and a lot of work to do. If we didn't make the test, we have to do all this work during the weekend, and we can lose a lot of time. So, pretty happy. The speed is not there, but not too far. We have a big margin, I think, because the tire is different, and that affects a lot every bikes. And maybe some bikes takes less work to adapt to that tire, but our bike still we are not happy 100%. So let's see during the weekend what we will make.
That was my next question. Your team manager told me that you planned the second session today to try some settings that they had dreamed up in the factory during lockdown. Did anything work?
Well, every setup is always important. The important thing is to understand the difference. Positive or negative is always important, and I'm pretty happy. We didn't make everything. We couldn't make everything because it's normal, and the heat. The situation was quite difficult for everybody, but we did a lot of work. Fortunately, we have tomorrow to study and with the engineer and try to be ready for the weekend.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Andrea Dovizioso, you'd think that Ducati and him would want to try and get this deal sorted sooner rather than later so they can try and focus on 2020. But just talking about the here and now, Dovi and Jerez, it's not really been a love story. There was one weekend, of course, a few years ago where it looked like he might go on to take a great podium until that incident over at the dry set corner with Lorenzo and Danilo Petrucci. But usually speaking, Matt, Dovi is not on pace here in Jerez, and you almost think that there's a swimming pool. I mean, I think we might need to jump in that after this. That looks absolutely glorious. It is baking hot down here in the paddock, by the way. But yeah, sticking with Dovi. With Brno and Austria, 2 races in Austria coming up really, really quickly. We know Dovi loves that place. We know that Ducati does as well. You almost get the feeling this is damage limitation at rounds 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, Dovi would not be excited about a double header here in Jerez. I love that. We've got so much multi-million-pound technology awash in this pit lane, and then some of the most essential items of the whole day are 2 €5 paddling pools that they probably got from a local supermarket. Brilliant. But yeah, Dovizioso, he hates this place. He's never had a podium. The only circuit on the MotoGP calendar where he's never been on the podium. Ducati are winless here since 2006, a real bogey circuit for both, not the place where they would have wanted 2020 to be getting underway at all.
No, well, we'll have to see how it all pans out. I believe we're going to be crossing over to catch up with Cal Crutchlow shortly. And, well, it's been a most peculiar 12 months, really, for Cal, of course. At the start of last year, recovering from injury, then getting himself back up to speed pretty quickly. End of last year as well, really good. Let's not forget, second place over at Phillip Island. But then, during the lockdown, Matt, Cal Crutchlow given the news that he is no longer part of Honda's plans. Now, there was a lot of talk last year. The word retirement kept on coming up with Cal Crutchlow, but it seems like he's kind of had a bit of a change of heart in regards to whether or not he wants to stop racing.
Yeah, I read an interview this week with Cal where he said basically, I feel as fast as ever. The last time he finished a race was in Phillip Island, and he finished a very close second to Marc Marquez. So, Cal still feels like he's got plenty to offer this championship. I think a lot of people might be surprised that he's had to make way in LCR Honda, but of course there's been a big shuffling of the pack there with Alex Marquez moving out of HRC. It looks like at the moment Cal may find salvation in Aprilia, which will be a pretty exciting lineup. A good time to get on the factory Aprilia. And Cal thinks he's still got a lot to offer. Of course, he brings a lot of experience. He brings Honda, Yamaha and Ducati experience to Aprilia. That would be a pretty exciting lineup for next year. Cal Crutchlow and anaylse Spargo on the factory Aprilia. Let's find out about how Cal's day, though, on a Honda went, because he had a little chat with Simon earlier on this afternoon.
Cal, you were fast straight out of the gate this morning. What was it like getting back on the bike in that heat after almost 4 months?
Well, yeah, first of all, it has been 4 months for me because I haven't ridden a bike since the last time we rode in Qatar, so it was nice to get back on. I had a bit of a shock to the system the first run and the first laps, but enjoyable. Great to be back with the team, working hard and looking forward to this weekend here in Jerez.
What do you think is going to be the most difficult thing to manage with this heat at this circuit on your machine this weekend?
I think our bike in the heat with the tyres is really difficult to turn in the moment, it seems, so we need to progress and work on that. We tried in the FP2 there. We did some different style runs. We tried the bike up and down a little bit just to see if we could improve that, but my feeling was the same. But we have some good options for the race weekend. I think that we can do more. You know, obviously we only had 2 hours in between the two sessions, and we didn't want to do too much. But it was nice to finally get back on the bike, get up to some speed, and know that I can still ride a motorcycle again.
Thank you, Cal.
Cheers.
Very much to Cal Crutchlow there, speaking to Simon. You know what? It is astonishing, Matt, when you think every single rider in this paddock, bar none, has been out on a motorcycle of some description in the last 4 months. Whether it's a mini bike, a dirt bike, a motocross bike, out on circuits, track bikes. Cal Crutchlow, of course, we know, is such a keen cyclist, and that's all he's been doing. He has not been on a motorcycle of any description for 4 months. And he comes out of the blocks and he was half a second slower than Marc Marquez, like within laps. I mean, that is just unbelievable.
Cal's just so unique in that aspect, isn't he? Where, you know, he does not touch any kind of motorised two-wheel transport at all in the 4-month layoff. And it's astonishing that he can just immediately find the rhythm, blow off those cobwebs. It sounds like, though, unfortunately, he's still got a few issues with the turning of that Honda. But Cal's talked about this before in the past, you know, sometimes when he's had the off-season between Valencia and the first test in Sepang, he says there's nothing really that I like doing on two wheels outside of MotoGP that really floats my boat as much as cycling. He's not interested in motocross, he's not interested in dirt tracks, so he says, why bother wasting my time doing something that I don't really enjoy? He says, I get my adrenaline kicks, I get the buzz out of riding a MotoGP bike. So you can't really argue them. When he turns up and does what he's done today, I'm really intrigued actually to see what's going to happen with Cal, because obviously at the moment, you know, he's got this potential Aprilia deal. That's all dependent on what happens with Andrea Dovizioso. Of course, his appeal against the doping ban should be heard fairly soon. Cal has got an option to go to Honda's World Superbike team and potentially partner Alvaro Bautista next year. So he's got options, but I think most people would love to see Cal stay in this paddock, because I think he's got unfinished business.
I do as well. There's a few more don't doubt me's left in Cal as yet, and we certainly hope that he's around for a bit longer as yet. Let's now just switch over to KTM, of course. An up and down season for them last year. At times high, sometimes low. None more so than Miguel Oliveira. Matt, he really went through the pain, did Miguel. Of course, he got himself injured over at Phillip Island in that horrendous crash and hasn't raced since. Let's now find out what the Portuguese rider made of the first day here in Jerez.
Miguel, what was it like getting back on a MotoGP bike today in those temperatures?
You know, was a nice, not first, but was a nice contact with all the grid together. Was for sure a challenging day for everyone because of the hot conditions. But yeah, I think the tires we have are quite okay for the conditions we are going to face the rest of the weekend and next race as well, looks like. So we will just need to adapt as quick as possible and make the adjustments we need to make for Friday. But it's just nice to have this kind of FP0 because you know, the mechanics, some of them haven't touched the bike since a long time. So also for them it's quite nice to, you know, get this introduction and just make the, you know, just the teamwork all fluid again. So
last time the MotoGP bikes were on track, I noticed Pole had a different chassis, and now all of the KTM bikes look the same.
Yeah.
Is that chassis an improvement? If so, in what area?
Well, we tested quite a few frames on the off season, and at the end in Qatar we had some different frames to test. Finally, to make a little bit of time, some of us tested different things, and then during this period of time we were just able to build material for everyone all the same, and I think is good because we can then give the information about the same bike and go and build up from there.
Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you.
Very much to Miguel Oliveira, who of course is going full factory and joins up with his old buddy Brad Binder again for 2021. That's a nice little tale. A similar story, Matt, for Miguel Oliveira, as there was for a number of other riders last year, in that he was going really, really well until that injury. In fact, we'll come back to that in a moment, because sticking with KTM, we can now hear some words from their key rider, Pol Espargaro.
Sorry, Pole. Just inside the top 10 today, but you always pull something special out on race weekend. I'm curious, what area do you want to improve the bike for that?
Yeah, today I think we've been okay. Still missing something in one lap. We were working during all the preseason a lot on the race pace, because it's where at the end you gain the points. But you need to fast lap, and it's what, for example, Ducati is, very good. They get one super lap, and then for sure you struggle a little at the beginning of the race, and to get back to the top positions is very difficult. So, we are pleased with the race pace, but we need to check what we need else to be a little bit more and higher on the stands to make a good start and to enjoy a little bit the race of Sunday.
And the temperature, what's the hardest thing to deal with?
Yeah, at the end the tires are suffering quite a lot. I have to say that the Michelin tires are working pretty well with quite a lot of laps on the tires, so this is nice. They resist this hot, which is very, very important. But for sure the spinning is there. The track is around 65 degrees when we are racing in the midday, and this for sure is making a lot of spin and a lot of soft movements on the bike, which I'm not comfortable on this kind of problems. But anyway, at the end we need to work. It's just the first day and still 3 days ahead.
Thank you, Paul, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much to Pol Espargaro. We were talking about Miguel Oliveira and Pol Espargaro, so we might as well try and knit the two together, because of course Miguel's taking Pol's place. It's sort of bittersweet at the moment for KTM in many ways. They're bringing on experience in Danilo Petrucci. They've got two excellent young talents and prospects in Brad Binder and Miguel Oliveira, but what a blow to lose that man, Pol Espargaro.
Massive blow, Steve. He's been there right from the start in 2017. He's been such a key, influential figure in developing that RC16 into a bike that looks like on paper so far this year it could actually be fighting on a regular basis for the top six. So it's a huge blow for KTM. They would not have wanted to have let Pol go. He was their key asset. I think Pol himself, although he hasn't talked publicly about this dream move alongside his career-long rival Marc Marquez in HRC, it's worth noting those two have been racing each other in Spain since before they were 10 years old. They know each other better than the backs of their own hands, but I think there was only one team in the paddock that Pol would have left KTM for. He loves it there, he loves the management, he loves the way they work. He certainly loves his team, led by, of course, Paul Travadin. I think there was only Repsol Honda that could entice Pol away. It's almost like that, the mythical name, isn't it, Repsol Honda. He couldn't say no, and I think if it wasn't for them, he'd have been staying put with Red Bull KTM. I suppose the flip side is, when you've got a rider like Pol who's such your number one, such your key asset, I don't know why KTM left it perhaps so late. Look at Yamaha, for example. They knew that there were people sniffing around Fabio Quartararo and Maverick Vinales. They jumped, they got their guy signed January, February. Marquez, HRC never really let Marc get into any serious negotiation with everybody else because they snap him up in January or February time. Now, I'm not sure what happened. I don't know when the approach came from Honda for Pol Espargaro, but you know, if he is your number one asset, your key man, you've got to try and make that move early. Did they just rest on their laurels thinking, well, he's going to stay with us, he loves it here, nobody's going to come in for him, because it's going to be a big, big miss. I'm not saying that Petrucci's not going to be able to step in and fill his shoes, but it's a big ask because Pol has been the talisman for KTM right from the start.
Well, I suppose that what you say is absolutely true, Matt. When you really look back at last year, Pol was so happy with the progress being made at KTM. Even in winter testing, he seemed to allude to the fact that he believed that there were going to be potential podiums on the cards for this season as well. But when it is Repsol Honda, I mean, it's the dream for Pol Espargaro. And on that, I mean, what can we realistically expect Pol Espargaro to do on the Repsol Honda? I know that you've written a piece during lockdown about the prospect. I mean, he is a little bullfighter, Pol, and that Honda needs to be ridden in such a way, and there is genuine chance here for him to be able to get some podiums.
Yeah, he's looked at it and thought maybe I can fight with Marc. We'll cross back to Ducati because you can see on your screens there, we've got Pecco Bagnaia, Pramac Ducati rider, live, ready to talk to Simon Crafar.
Pecco, really impressive afternoon, 6th position in that really high heat. It looked like you and Jack did the opposite. Jack was fast this morning, struggled in the afternoon. You weren't so fast this morning, really fast in the afternoon where the race is. How do you feel?
I'm feeling good. It was very important to make quicker, to having the same feeling of February in Qatar. So we worked well, I think, because this morning we have not touched nothing on the bike for taking more feeling from the bike. And this afternoon we have moved something, but very little, to adapt better the braking in this track. And in the last session, I make in the last 3-4 laps my best lap time with few starts. So this is very important for the race, for the qualifying, because this is the race hour. So it's very important, and I'm very happy about today.
What areas would you like to improve for race weekend?
We need to work more on the braking because now I'm very strong on the braking, but the problem is that it's very difficult to stop the bike because the grip maybe today was less or for the conditions, and we had to work on this direction because if you push a lot, you start to have a little bit of problem with the front lock. So it's very important to set this thing. And the other thing is to turn more on the fast corner, but we are very close already on an ideal setup. I have just to make more laps.
Thank you, Pecco.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much to Pecco Bagnaia. If you can hear some funny noises at the moment, then we apologise. We've got a bin lorry, literally, that has parked up right next to our set here. In fact, it's now about to drive past, but luckily we've got some footage here of Pecco Bagnaia. You know, the longer this goes on in terms of the factory ride being available, the longer the negotiations take for Dovi and Ducati. There is a very, very small window of opportunity here for Pecco. I mean, if he could come out all guns blazing here, because he, much like Franco Morbidelli, is not a rider who just goes out, grabs the bull by the horns and gets fast straight away. He needs time to build, and he was building at the end of last year. There is a little opportunity here, perhaps, for Pecco.
Yeah, there is, because, I mean, the vibes coming out of Ducati, Steve, are that potentially they're going to wait until this doubleheader in Jerez, and then after Brno, and then the 2 races in the Red Bull Ring, where we know, of course, Ducati is so formidable. That's where, after those first 5 races, Ducati are going to start making some key decisions. I think it's a long shot for Pecco to get into the factory team, although what does happen if Andrea Dovizioso does take the real unusual route of taking the year out? I can't see, I mean, there's nothing at the moment that says Pecco Bagnaia is actually staying at Ducati.
No, that is true.
I think a lot of people last year in Ducati were a little bit underwhelmed by his performances. There were a few flashes of brilliance. He had that great top 6 in Phillip Island in Australia, but Pecco's got to start delivering in a big way. I mean, I think, you know, we know that Jorge Martin's coming into Pramac Ducati, but will Pecco still be there? I can't see Ducati gambling on 2 rookies, but who knows? They do tend to do things differently in Bologna at times.
They do. I just have to say as well, this talk of sabbatical, I'm almost astonished.
Well, I can't
see how can a 34-year-old rider in MotoGP take a sabbatical.
Well, and the thing is as well is, I mean, if you look at everybody that's signing contracts right now, they are 2-year contracts. So what rides are available at the end of 2021 for 2022 if he does decide to sit it out? I mean, I think it's Andrea and his manager Simone Battistella trying to call Ducati's bluff a little bit, but you know, I think it's all going to sort itself out. I mean, obviously at the moment they can't make the numbers match, so
well,
that's the problem.
I know that there's a lot of people at home that have been waiting for this one. Of course, as you can see on your screen right now, Valentino Rossi is ready to have an interview with Simon Crafar. We'll cross there now.
Valentino, you came out of the gate really fast this morning, first session. It looked like this afternoon's session wasn't so easy.
Yes, this morning I feel better. I was faster and I did a good lap at the end with for the time attack. In the afternoon we try something different, but looks like that with more temperature I suffer a bit more, and especially my race pace is not fantastic. So we have to work.
Okay. When you say work, what areas would you like to improve?
Balance of the bike, we are not fantastic. I don't like a lot. And after, as always, the key will be the tires. Front tire, rear tire. You have a minimum 2 options, and depends very much from the temperature, the feeling. So we need some more lap for understanding.
Thank you, Vali.
Thank you.
Very much to Valentino Rossi then. Yeah, he did go very quick this morning. It was great to see the 41-year-old old boy. And all fingers pointing towards, Matt, the doctor continuing on into 2021 at the moment.
Certainly are. Yeah, we know he's out, of course, of the factory Yamaha team. That place going to Fabio Quartararo, but it's all pointing towards an imminent announcement. Some people felt it was going to be coming this week, that he will be going to the Petronas Yamaha SRT team. It looks like that deal is done and dusted. It is all about the final paperwork. That's going to be officially announced, possibly in Brno or at the Red Bull Ring. And of course, it will be the master and the apprentice. Franco Morbidelli confirmed that Petronas Yamaha SRT for another couple of years. Slightly worrying if you are a fan of the evergreen doctor there, because it sounds like it's the age-old problem for Rossi. When the temperature starts soaring, it's going to be a problem, because, you know, hot conditions in the past, low grip, that's when Rossi has really suffered. So they'll be hoping to make some breakthrough, because like you said earlier on, Steve, it looks like the mercury's going to continue rising this weekend. It's going to be a scorcher on Sunday, and that won't help Rossi.
Well, surely the Rossi fans will be hoping, as we are, that there's a little bit of magic still left in that trick box. If you at home, by the way, fancy yourself as someone that might be able to predict the future, why not have a go on the MotoGP Fantasy League, by the way? That's new, it's ready to go. We are racing, of course, round 1 here. Now, if you go on to MotoGP.com or fantasy.motogp.com or on the MotoGP app, you can pick your own team, you can pick 4 riders, and at the end there's some brilliant prizes to win as well. It's free to enter. You could win a signed Marc Marquez helmet. There's lots more as well. We're going to have a go. It's going to get quite competitive.
Yep. Off back to the hotel to dust off the crystal ball tonight.
Anyway, that is literally all we've got time for. As you can see here, the protocol's in place. Everything getting cleaned up, ready for the start of the weekend, because tomorrow, Thursday, is press conference day, and it is actually officially the start of a Grand Prix weekend. And I, Matt, am so excited about that.
Yeah, we've been waiting, I think on Sunday it would have been 245 long days since the MotoGP boys certainly were in action at the Ricardo Tormo circuit in Valencia. It's been a long wait, but I'm sure it will be worth the wait.
Well, that is all we've got time for here in After the Flag. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be back in the commentary box all weekend. The team are here. We're ready to go. Stay tuned, stay safe, and enjoy the action. MotoGP is back.